Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, the Supreme Court has rebooted the Jaypee Infra resolution process. The Apex Court has disposed of all petitions and applications pending before it in this matter. It's ordered a fresh round of bidding for the company to be dealt with by the NCLT. And that's not all. The Supreme Court has also ordered the reconstitution of the Committee of Creditors with representation from home buyers. Remember, after the recent amendments to the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, home buyers are now to be treated as financial creditors. Also, the court has barred Jaypee Infra, its parent company Jaypee Associates, and promoters from participating in the resolution process. Now, what does this verdict mean for various stakeholders, lenders, and of course, more importantly, the home buyers? To discuss that, joining us today are editors Lata Venkatesh, Manisha Natarajan, and Ritu Singh. But let me go across to Ritu first. Ritu, take us to the fine print of the Supreme Court order. What does the court say?
Well, the Supreme Court has essentially reversed the clock back to last year and restarted the corporate insolvency resolution process with the 180-day timeline starting today on the date of the order. Of course, that is extendable by another 90 days as the insolvency process allows. The second important thing to be noted is that the Committee of Creditors is to be reconstituted with inclusion of the home buyers. And, home buyers, given their exposure in this case, will almost constitute 60% weightage when it comes to the Committee of Creditors. So they will, in a gist, have an important say in what resolution plan is finally approved by the company. The third important point to note from the order is that fresh bids will be invited for Jaypee Infratech. So the IRP has been allowed to invite fresh bids from, aside from these three players that were earlier shortlisted, including Adani, Lakshadweep, and the Kotak Cube JV. New players will also be now allowed to bid for the company, which is actually good news for the home buyers and the lenders as well. But the promoters of Jaiprakash Infratech and Jaypee Infratech and Jaiprakash Associates, that is, will not be allowed to participate in the resolution process. This has been specifically clarified because Jaiprakash Associates promoters had in fact offered a resolution plan for Jaypee Infratech, which of course now has been rejected by the Supreme Court. Another important point that came out of the order today is the fact that Jaiprakash Associates, the parent company of Jaiprakash Infratech, will now be allowed to be sent to the NCLT. That is something that the RBI had petitioned the Supreme Court for, and now it has paved the way for RBI to direct banks to take Jaiprakash Associates also into NCLT. Remember, which was due to be done in December, but was put on hold pending Supreme Court's clearance. And the last important point from the Supreme Court order is that 750 crore rupee amount. Now remember, the bank had directed Jaiprakash Associates, the parent company of JIL, to deposit about 2,000 crore rupees with the Supreme Court for the home buyers, but so far they had only deposited that 750 crore rupees as repayment. That amount will now be transferred to the NCLT, which is where the case has now moved. So as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, this case has been disposed of, and now the court is in NCLT's court.
All right, the ball is now in the NCLT's court. Ritu, appreciate you joining us. Manisha, what does this mean now? How does this verdict change things for home buyers? How will the representation on the Committee of Creditors impact their future? And the fact that the resolution period will start afresh from today, is that a big cause for concern now?
Absolutely, Shireen. And, I just want everyone to go back and understand in the last 1 year what's happened. Now, after, IDBI dragged Jaypee Infra to insolvency, it was the home buyers moved the court under Article 32 to protect the interests now of home buyers who had been left in a lurch in September. They were staring at uncertain future. The court now has taken the position that now with the amendment in IBC, which came into force on 6 June 2018, where home buyers have become part of our financial creditors, they now necessarily constitute a part of the COC. But, home buyers are staring at a very uncertain future, Shireen, and they're wondering what happened. I mean, if you go back and look at the earlier judgments, Supreme Court's own judgment spirit, which has said several times, a home for the family is a basic human yearning and a part of the right to life as a fundamental constitutional guarantee. Now, look at the numbers, 21,532 home buyers of JIL back to square one after 1 year of wait. They're surprised with the complete dismissal of all pending proceedings. They were were meant to get an interim order today, and they've got all proceedings completely dismissed. They're surprised that Apex Court has let off JAL without forensic audit or any court contempt, considering JAL did not fulfill court orders of depositing 2,000 crore. And even the IRP had filed a petition of fraud at NCLT in JIL books for mortgaging JIL land to JAL for a loan for the parent company. The order indicates that Jaypee Associates may also be dragged to insolvency. So that's another lot of home buyers we all have to worry about, because they will find themselves stranded and they have no idea of how long it will take for their homes to get completed. Any resolution will need home buyers on COC, as Ritu has said. But can you imagine? I mean, 21,000 plus home buyers unanimously voting for a resolution. They all have different opinions. Some of them say, we don't want to take any haircut. We want the house and the penalty. And they're citing 18% penalty. So it's very confusing. And I'm just surprised, Shireen, that, yesterday you had Supreme Court, another bench ruling in Amrapali saying, ordering all audits of books and saying, get the money out, figure out where the land is, make sure that the project is completed, bring in NBCC. And here you have a dramatically different order. The only relief is that Jaypee Associates has been barred from getting Jaypee Infra assets back. In fact, Supreme Court has clearly stated in its order today that JAL's proposal, although presented under the garb of protecting the interest of home buyers, is aimed at twin benefits of avoiding insolvency for JAL and regaining control of JIL, thereby defeating RBI's application for insolvency proceedings. So it's really, let's say, called the hoax of JAL in this case.
Well, it's an uncertain future, as Manisha is pointing out now, for home buyers. It's been a one-year-long wait. The Supreme Court is no longer in this matter, is no longer invested in this matter now. The proceedings will move to the NCLT and a decision will be taken at that end. But Hiranandani Group's Managing Director, Niranjan Hiranandani, welcomed the Supreme Court verdict. However, in a conversation with CNBC TV18, he said that further clarity was needed on who will complete the construction of Jaypee Infra's realty projects, exactly the point that Manisha was making.
I think it's a very, very positive move. There should be no difficulty whatsoever. There is still a gap. I think we still have to go a long way, because the identification as to who will carry out these projects is still a question mark. Will the original developer be the part? Will the home buyers collectively do it? Will there be somebody like NBCC to really take up this activity? Or will an external investor come in? I think these are questions which are still unanswered.
Well, he's absolutely right. Those are the pertinent questions that remain unanswered. But let's go across to Lata now. Lata, so far we've discussed the impact of the verdict on Jaypee Infra stakeholders. What does this order mean for Jaiprakash Associates shareholders?
Well, in all this, the important question is for the Jaypee Associates retail shareholder, what happens to Jaypee Associates? Now, let me first narrate the story so far. Reserve Bank had ordered banks to take Jaypee Associates to the NCLT in its second list that came in late 2017. Reserve Bank's filter was all loans above 3,000 crores, which are stressed, which are NPA for the last 6 quarters, have to be sent to the NCLT. There were 29 companies and JPA was one of them. But banks had pleaded to RBI that we are coming to an out-of-court settlement on JPA. Should we take it to NCLT? RBI had not given the answer. But in the Supreme Court, in the Jaypee Infra case, RBI had said that they should be given permission to take JPA to NCLT. So clearly at that time, they had not accepted the out-of-NCLT settlement. Now the point is, since at that time the Supreme Court had stopped RBI saying we can't allow you to take JPA to NCLT till Jaypee Infratech is resolved. Now that the Jaypee Infratech issue has been resolved by the Supreme Court and sent to the NCLT, the Reserve Bank's rule telling banks to take JPA to NCLT once again becomes a live issue for shareholders. Now, let me just tell you what was the resolution package. The resolution package was around, all these are rough figures, 34,000 crore of debt, of which about 14,500 was to come from Ultratech because of the cement deal. 12,000 odd crores was put into an SPV which owned all the land owned by JPA, and that SPV was to assume 12,000 crore of carved out debt, and the remaining around 6,000 crores were supposed to be borne by the Jaypee Associates main company, what was remaining of it. Now the point is, will the banks again go to RBI and say, okay, can we go ahead with this out of NCLT package? Chances are that the Reserve Bank may not agree, because the Reserve Bank has been pretty strict. The point is whether the banks will also ask, because the prevailing mood is not to allow old promoters to continue. The Gaur family has a chance only if this is settled outside NCLT. If it goes to NCLT, again the old Section 29A may apply, and they may say the Gaurs cannot apply for the resolution package. So for shareholders, if Gaur comes back, it's possible that there is some value. Chances are it is going to be very slim that it is kept out of NCLT, because of the prevailing mood both in RBI and in the government not to allow old promoters to continue. The shareholders may still have a chance that an outsider who looks at JPA's land and remaining assets is willing to pay the entire debt to the bankers, as well as keep a little bit of the equity value. That is that small sliver of chance that the shareholders of JPA have. I think it's quite a risky gamble.
All right, so we'll have to wait to see whether there will be any exceptions that will be made, or is it going to be the NCLT process for Jaypee Associates as well. Lata, Manisha and Ritu, appreciate you joining us here on the Editors Roundtable to discuss the developments of the day when it comes to the Jaypee situation. It's time now for us to head into a break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, our special coverage of IKEA'S India debut. The Swedish retailer opens its first store in India in Hyderabad.
The day that Swedish home furnishing giant IKEA has been waiting for here in India and has finally arrived. They've thrown open their gates to the first store in the country here in Hyderabad. And as you can see behind me, the excitement among shoppers is pretty much infectious. A whole host of IKEA products is what they want to experience, shopping and browsing firsthand. And the biggest draw really is the 7,500 product range that IKEA offers here in India. And what is grabbing most attention is the fact that 1,000 products are placed between or below the 200 rupees category. In front of me, you can see about 15 rupees and 80 rupees are the kind of price tags on products, and that's got shoppers very excited. Apart from this, a whole host of firsts for IKEA in India. The first time they're going to be toying with delivery as well as assembly services. The largest restaurant across the globe in 50 countries. Here in the Hyderabad store, they will be offering samosas and biryani on the menu as well. In fact, let's talk to some of the shoppers who've actually come here and seem to be pretty excited to be shopping here at IKEA. Ma'am, if I can just get 1 minute, what's your initial reaction to this store here in Hyderabad?
Yeah, I've been to many IKEA stores in the US. Yeah, it's a good store and we're very fond of this. I'm a big fan of IKEA. But yeah, the entrance, it was very tough. It was like challenging. We really wanted to go out.
What about the price tags? Have you seen the products? Do they look very competitive?
In Hyderabad, it is the first time I'm visiting IKEA, but in the US, yeah, they're very reasonable and they're good.
Fantastic. All the best. Continue shopping. So this is the kind of excitement. Of course, day one, it has been challenging entering the store. The kind of crowds, just 15 minutes after the store opening, over 500 customers thronging. So it will be interesting to see how the story really unfolds. But one thing is for certain, shoppers here in Hyderabad seem to be very excited. Remember, from here, it will move to Mumbai, Chennai, Bengaluru, Ahmedabad and Delhi in phase 1 and phase 2, and they're targeting over 49 cities very soon. Of course, the story has begun and all the action now here in Hyderabad. I'm going to get that shopping cart and go shopping. If Hyderabad is on your destination anytime soon and you're a shopaholic, you may want to come here. If I remember right, 2007-2008 was when you first came knocking on the government doors for entering into India in terms of a full format store. It's been close to 10 years since then. What has the journey been like, and how are the key challenges of interacting with the government? How has it changed now that you finally opened it?
Yeah, it's a very important question, you can say. The market potential has been there, and as India with one of the oldest, longest cultures in the world, but a young nation with a quick development. Every year that goes by, the opportunity for life at home increases. So we have, our appetite has been increasing, and at the same time the collaboration with local government representation and also the India representation has been tremendous, because the preconditions were not there some years ago for us to open, which led us from a cost perspective and risk perspective not ready. Together with a good collaboration, we have been able to find ways which I think will be great for IKEA and certainly great for India.
Well, if I can ask you, Jesper, if looking back, you would say, you know, these were the top challenges before entering into India, was policy instability one of them? And has that changed now? For players like yourself, global giants, is India now an emerging market that you cannot ignore?
Well, definitely. India is, with 1.3 billion people plus, one of the fastest developing economies. All the facts are there, so to say. But to your point, I wouldn't say policy instability, but uncertainty some decades ago, where there is, today it's a super strong commitment throughout India for progress that has to, of course, go hand in hand with many aspects and interest in society. But today it's a braver India, and it's a more open India that is more committed to the progress. So we feel like a partner, we feel like a part of that transition.
Well, keeping the spotlight on the relationship between IKEA and India, if I were to ask you your plans for expansion here in India initially, and of course for all our viewers on CNBC TV18, the numbers, the map behind that, what's the kind of investment you're going to be pumping into our country?
We have already invested 4.5 billion euro. And we will continue the coming years, of course, as we take IKEA to new cities, as we step into e-commerce to increase that investment level. So, and the commitment that we make is not short-term, it is long-term. It will take us a couple of years to get volumes, to get economy of scale here.
Absolutely.
But this is the starting point. And now, if we have talked about the relationship with the authorities, with suppliers, producers in India. Now, tomorrow, starts the relationship with customers.
Sure.
And that will be the most important, where we are, of course, the most important commitment for us to provide affordable and inspiring home furnishing solutions that works in India.
Absolutely. You've mentioned e-commerce, so are we going to see in India at least IKEA products being available online soon, and how soon can we expect that?
So our ambition is to already in 2019 be able to provide e-commerce. We're working hard with a lot of practicalities to make that come true. And I think there's a fair chance that quite soon that will be an opportunity.
Well, Jesper, before I talk to you about global plans, really, as far as India is concerned, there's been many firsts of sorts for IKEA, the largest restaurant, the first time you're going to be looking at door delivery of products, etc. So talk to us really about how you've adapted IKEA's ideologies to suit the Indian customer.
For me, I'm convinced that the biggest learning for us from India is actually related to quality. So the Indian home is dynamic. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of love, it's a lot of coming together, it's a lot of cooking. And if you take that in combination with one of the driest and most humid climates in the world, it has put a lot of demands back on us, actually, to fulfill the quality standards. So the interesting thing is that it wasn't a strategy, but the fact is that India has helped IKEA to become better in quality. Then, what do we want to do differently in India? Of course, we have, even if human needs we find, and I travel the world and I always do home visits, human needs are the same. The trends are similar. People live in smaller and smaller spaces, etc.
Absolutely.
But for us, we have done more than 1,000 home visits in order to truly understand what are the needs and demands from the Indian customers. So when you come to the store, the environments, the homes that we have built here, they reflect our version of India and Indian homes.
Nice.
And we want to flirt with the Indians to not only provide the expected, but something that can enhance life quality, but also to do that in an affordable way.
You mentioned affordability, so if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be your most cost-effective market, probably one of your cheapest markets across the globe. How important was pricing when you chose India? Because it's a very sensitive economy.
Absolutely. To be honest, I would say that India, from a cost perspective, in the beginning, is a challenge, because stepping into India, it's a nation, but it's almost a continent. It's geographically so big that logistics will pose challenges. And when we don't, in the beginning, until we have some certain volumes, we will be under pressure from cost.
Sure.
What we've done is we made a strong commitment. So in the diversity of India, not only from ethnicity, languages, etc., but also from income, which is, I believe, is the widest that we have ever been exposed for. We have worked so that 1,000 products out of the 7,500 products will actually be available for under 200 rupees. 500 will be under 100 rupees.
Great.
These have been some of the most difficult challenges for us to actually provide good quality in that price range.
Absolutely. If I were to talk about import duties, then does that continue to be a cause of concern as far as India is concerned? Are you in talks with the government to actually look at?
Yeah, we are. We are talking. We're having an amazing dialogue, and it's a very intelligent dialogue where we all understand the transition India is into. Our point of view, and we might be wrong, but it is our point of view, is that it would be better to incentivize production, automation, modernization, rather than penalizing imports.
Sure.
Because in the end of the day, customers will be the one who have to pay for that. But we also have to express our humble respect for that. Leading India in a transition is not easy.
Correct.
And of course, there has to be also respect for protecting interest, and that the change of the pace of change is manageable. Yeah.
Well, that
But
automatically...
if you ask me, I would rather not have the duties.
Yeah, fair enough.
And if we did it, we would lower our prices, we would sell more, we would provide more jobs. So let's see.
Let's see. The dialogue is on, and we can see what the government decides to do on that. But that automatically leads me to my next question, which is, as far as sourcing is concerned, how much are you currently sourcing from India? Are you looking to scale that up significantly in order to maybe even bring down costs for the Indian customer?
Absolutely. Sourcing, the question comes very often, what is the share of sourcing? That is the outcome. The goal for us is to land a product at the lowest possible price in a store. Already, luckily, we have been for many years sourcing textiles, plastic, metal products in India. So we had a good start. Thanks to the first store, we have been able to bring in production not only of mattresses, sofas, and some more products, but also a lot of food opportunities have been brought up. And as we get bigger and as we drive economy of scale, there will be opportunities for industrial setups that we don't have today.
Sure.
But it has to be world class, because you're part of a global market from a sourcing perspective, with of course the advantage of when IKEA'S volume is big in the closed market, there is of course a logistic advantage. So it will grow. How much? Let's see.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What is your favorite India-made product, if I can ask, as far as your choice in IKEA'S range is concerned?
This is such a difficult one for me. I love so many products, but I tend to... IKEA'S design formula is not only about the low price. It is about combining beauty, functionality and quality and the low price in one. And when we manage to do that well, it is by far the most difficult design formula. Then I'm super proud. We have a product called Oftast, which means often, because you can use it often. And it's a set of plates, cups, bowls that has a porcelain high-end look and feel, but it's made of white glass in a new technology, and it's available at amazing prices. So it makes me very proud.
Well, fantastic. Jesper, another thing that's unique to India is, incidentally, initially you mentioned 25 stores by 2025, but we're already hearing probably more, because they're going to be smaller format stores. Talk to us about how important that is for the Indian market, because diversity is the key here.
Yeah. We have the spade in the ground in Mumbai. We have 4 sites acquired in total. We're looking for the next 4 and 5. Yeah. What the most likely scenario is that we will continue to look for a flagship store footprint, at least one, maybe several around the big cities. But as urbanization is speeding up in the world, and even more so in India, we also have to look into how can we serve people who don't have transportation means and so on. So thereby we will also test and try different formats. These are not yet conceptualized and proven, so it will be a lot of development and innovation. I'm sure some failures, but also some successes. And this India is the perfect market for us to try that in.